Welcome back to another tabletop review. Today we'll be looking at the Kimber Custom Carry 2, an M1911 style 45. About 12 years ago, I was looking for an affordable, really high quality autoloader. I walked into a gun store and I asked the clerk to show me the absolute best handgun he had in stock. Without hesitation, he walked down the counter and retrieved a two-tone Kimber M1911 style 45 with a factory laser system. And at $1,120, that seemed like a lot of money at the time. I'd never spent that much for a handgun before. I didn't buy anything that day, but I couldn't get the look and the feel of that gun out of my mind. Eventually, a local gun store had a sale, and this is what I brought home with me that day. No doubt a lot has changed since I bought this gun 12 years ago. I can't tell you how many times I've been told that Kimbers are overrated, and I'm a bit surprised about how much emotion gets stirred up when I just mention 1911s for that matter. I'm told that 1911 format is itself just plain antiquated, but I'm just going to lay out some details here and talk a bit about my own experiences. That's all I can do. After 12 years, how has this gun held up? Let's make sure that this one is cleared. Okay, both visibly and physically cleared. The Kimber Custom is a product of Kimber Firearms. Kimber Firearms is a very young company with its beginnings in the state of Oregon back in 1979. Its history includes the embezzling of $10 million by its CFO back in 2004. Now located in Yonkers, New York, Kimber is known for producing high-end firearms. The Kimber Custom Model M1911 Style 45 became more popular in its SWAT and military applications beginning in 1997. The Kimber Custom Crimson Carry 2 came out about 2009. It was in fact this ingenious factory pairing of the Kimber Custom 2 with the Crimson Trace laser, a combo that could be offered at an attractive price, that led to this particular gun's popularity, which has continued on for over a decade. It came with a nicely hinged carrying case. It's fairly sturdy, lockable, hard plastic. Also a breakdown tool, which we'll need later. Came with only one magazine. Came with a fairly nice manual. Has instructions and also cleaning and adjustment tools for the laser system. Has some things that can be added to the magazines if you wanted to do that, and a lot of other paperwork. And it has the traditional lock. I added the purchase of a holster, and I also purchased an additional magazine. That's pretty much it. This one is two-tone, 45 ACP, 5.25 in height, 8.7 inches in length, 1.28 inches in width. The weight is about 31 ounces, 37.5 fully loaded. Single stack magazine, the capacity is 8. It has 16-pound recoil spring. The guide rod is full length. The frame is machined from a solid block of aluminum, and it is a satin silver finish. The slide is steel, finish is matte black. It has front and rear serrations. Barrel length is 5 inches, made of match grade steel, and the bushing is stainless steel match grade as well. The sights are fixed low profile. I did add the white dot myself to the front sight. The grips are a rosewood simulated. They're actually a tough polymer. That's because of the Crimson Trace laser system built into them. Double diamond textured. A nice safety tang. Skeletonized hammer. The trigger is also skeletonized, aluminum, match grade. Factory setting on the triggers about 4 to 5 pounds. Single action only. Before we get too far into this Kimber, let's back up a bit and just talk about 1911s in general. The 1911 was the brainchild of the firearms designer John Moses Browning. He's credited with development of the first reliable and compact auto-loading pistols by inventing the telescoping bolt, then integrating the bolt and the barrel shroud into what is known as the pistol slide. His telescoping bolt design is now found on nearly every modern semi-automatic pistol. If you own an automatic pistol, you should know who Browning is. First issued by Colt in .38 caliber in the year 1911, the 1911 has seen over 100 years of service. Now truthfully, how many items of any type can you name that you can say the same about? It is the longest serving firearm in U.S. history, from 1911 to the late 1980s when it was replaced by the Beretta M9. It has been used by the police and military personnel as the defense handgun for more decades than any other pistol. The first model grew out of a series of designs by Browning beginning in 1896. It was the design of the tilting barrel mechanism that became the Colt automatic pistol, or the 1900 as it would later be called. Variations and improvements of this innovative design would eventually lead to the 1911 45, which would prove flawless in its government's trials. When it was adopted by the U.S. Army on March 29, 1911, the M1911 earned its unmatched place in history. Now, some say that while the 1911 had a great run, its day has long passed. In fact, they point to the military's displacement of it with the Beretta M9 in the 1980s as irrefutable evidence. Critics also point out that the single-action trigger design, the hammer-cock carry expectation, and the need to thumb off the safety to fire as further evidence. In addition, compared to modern designs, the 1911 tends to be expensive. Even the basic Colt sells for $725. It requires more maintenance, are less reliable, are heavy, and just carry too few rounds. In response, champions of the 1911 would suggest that concerns about the single-action thumb safety is actually a problem of ignorance. They would suggest that in actual fact, the actual practice of the grip safety and the thumb safety design are brilliantly natural and extremely safe. As for most of the other criticisms, they would just say, well, so what? They would remind you that if you're a civilian carrying for self-defense, 8+1 rounds of .45 caliber is more than enough, since almost all encounters have been shown to be resolved in under 5 shots fired. They would also point out that one well-placed shot is better than 20 misses. They would point out that no other firearm has the longevity of service, safety, reliability, and effectiveness for self-defense. They would go on and on about the 1911's legendary trigger, that it is light and crisp with a short travel and reset, and they would point out that it's an exceptionally accurate firearm by design. As evidence, they will point out that it remains one of the most copied handgun designs and still in use today, and is often a favored among competition shooters. So there you have it, 1911's pros and cons. If you love striker-fired polymer pistols that are lighter, hold more rounds, cost less, and are cheaper to shoot, then you probably aren't convinced. That's okay, but if the idea of owning a brilliantly designed modern firearm based upon a classic piece of American history appeals to you, well then, it should be also noted that most 1911s produced today are technically clones based on the M1911 design. That would certainly be true of this Kimber Custom Crimson Carry II. So let's take a closer look here. It's not ambidextrous. It's single action only, of course. The sights are just black, but they are metal, they are dovetailed, and the rear can be adjusted for windage. Although 12 years old and after firing lots of rounds, this one is still incredibly tight. The slide to frame fit shows no movement side to side at all. There's no muzzle bushing movement at all. The lockup movement, no movement at all. This is one very, very tight gun. 1911s are known for their excellent triggers, and this Kimber Custom is no exception. The skeletonized trigger take-up and over-travel to engagement is outstanding. It has an adjustable over-travel trigger, and feels like 4 pounds, very light and crisp. As for grips, they're nicely textured and the back strap is checkered. Nice beaver tail. Grip safety is here. Crimson Trace laser is here. Activation button is right here. It's naturally when the grip is grabbed. It just activates naturally. On and off switch is here. Battery life is very good. Has retained the settings very well. The adjustments are here and here. Safety feels natural. It's got a solid, crisp click to it. The hammer is skeletonized as well. Firing experience. It's got about 20% more recoil than a solid gun of the same size, and that's sort of the trade-off of the aluminum frame. At 10 yards, my groups are consistently within a couple of inches. Very, very nice. All right, so let's walk through the disassembly steps. First thing we'll do is, once again, just make sure that the gun is cleared. Visually and physically it is cleared. We're going to set the safety on, hammer back, and Kimber provides you with this nifty little tool. There is a recoil spring back behind this spring plug. The spring plug you can see is hollowed out. Makes it difficult on this particular model to push it down with your fingers. It's also under 16 pounds of pressure, so it's pretty stiff. We want to be able to get that down so that we can rotate the bushing, this barrel bushing, clockwise. My hand is going to be over this to some extent because when the bushing is rotated and the plug is freed, I want to make sure that the spring doesn't shoot that plug out, and so it'll be a little difficult to see what I'm doing. But I'm going to do the best I can here to sort of walk you through it. First thing I'm going to do is just put this tool and catch it above the bushing, press down, rotate it, and there we go. So there's the plug and there's the spring. I can remove the spring. Now the next thing I need to do is to remove this pin here, so you can see it goes all the way through the frame. It has a little extension here, and you can see a little unit here that is on the end, and we're going to have to take the safety off now and move the slide back. Line this half moon right here up with the end of that pin, and when I get it lined up, I should be able to press on the other side of that pin, and it should come out. So there we go. Once the pin is being removed, the slide just pulls off of the frame. With the slide upside down, I can now remove, I need to move the barrel link up. It was down. I need to move it up in order for the guide rod to clear. So there we go. There's the guide rod. And now I should be able to move the barrel forward once I take the bushing out. The bushing now has to be rotated counterclockwise. Once I've done that, it can be removed from the slide. There's the bushing, and now the barrel can come out. So there we go. Disassembled. Reassembly is the reverse of what we just did, so I'm going to now return the barrel. I'm going to return the guide rod. The guide rod has an indented section here on one end here on the underside that goes down up against the barrel. The barrel link here has a hole in it. This pin has to go through the frame and through that hole. That's actually the most difficult thing to accomplish. It's sometimes difficult to get that hole lined up here, but it helps if you have this link forward to begin with. Okay, and once we have those two elements there, actually at this time we can start to put things back together. I am going to put the bushing back in here. Not everybody does this, but I kind of like to have that bushing in. It sort of holds things together. Okay. So there we go. Make sure that that is sitting properly. And so now we're going to return the slide. And again, what I'm trying to do is to line up this hole that's in the barrel link. I can get that lined up there. And sometimes I find if I've got something that I can use to sort of get that lined up, I could see it in there, and I could see that it was up a little too far. So all I did was just use a little dowel to move that down and center it. And so now the pin goes right back in. All right. Now, one of the things that you'll notice on some of these 1911s is scratching that takes place here, and sometimes actually up on the slide, and that's because of the problem of working this pin up where it's supposed to go in order to reassemble the slide. So we're going to get this back again now. If you remember, the half moon in the slide needs to line up in this square area here, and there is a little pressurized, little spring-loaded pin there. So we're going to get down just so that we're right up against that. Push that up and then down, and there it is, all back in. And so now we need to return the spring. The open end of the spring is on the top, and now we're going to return the plug. Press down on that plug. I've got it so that it is caught on the edge of the edge of the plug, and now I need to just press down, rotate it so it clicks in. There it is, and there we are, reassembled. Cost today, I've seen them on sale for as little as $950 with the lasers. Of course, and I haven't really seen those without them being out of stock at that sale price. $790 without the laser. Used, I've seen them as low as $750 with the laser. Options for Kimber. Kimber has a ton of different models to begin with, of course. As for the aftermarket stuff, there's a lot of opportunities out there for upgrades and changes, but this model was basically built to be ready to go as an entry-level price. Given its popularity, I'd say Kimber accomplished that mission. The sights are probably about the only thing that I ever thought about upgrading. It's smooth in its operation, it's reliable, no problem with different ammo. It's a very accurate shooter, although I did find that adding the white dot to the front sight helped me acquire targets faster when I'm not using a laser. I considered the laser to be a bit of a gimmick when I first got this, but that was, on the range. Off the range, a laser may have technical advantages, such as a home defense scenario, especially under stress situations, so I'll keep the laser, thank you very much. Especially with the Crimson Trace grip system, it's really excellent. But I'll admit that my appreciation for the Kimber and the 1911 design has improved over the years. So much so that I even bought the Kimber 22 slide conversion kit for this gun, which works great, and I'll cover that in another episode. And I upgraded to a really nice holster. It's very well constructed. It's well supported, beautifully finished, tight, solid, looks good, feels good. As the 1911s go, I thought this was a good piece at the price of $950. With the Chrism tray system, worked out pretty well. Okay, so it's a bit of a status gun, but what the heck. Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.